Good evening, George from Ology Group, Linkology CEO. I just wanted to record another episode for Link Building Fundamentals. It's been a little while since I've recorded one. I've been trying to record some business content talking about growth and positioning of products, but obviously the core of my experience is still in link acquisition. I wanted to give you guys a bit of an overview as to what we've been working on. I guess what's selling, what people are buying, what's working in terms of results that we're getting. So not much has changed in terms of the way in which you kind of acquire middle tier links, but the focus has to really double down on the relevancy of the link that you're getting. Now, obviously, you can control quite a lot of that through the narrative of the content that you write, you submit to the website, but those links still need to be justified, like the inclusion of them in the first place. It has to make sense. I also think that the focus of the content needs to be more pointed towards an outcome. I'm not afraid anymore to produce commercial content for a client and put it into a guest post, for example, because I kind of think these sort of vacuous pieces of content, which are like top 10 ways to skin a cat or see a mountain or something stupid like that, doesn't really give much proper value. We saw in the leak last year that Google looks at the context of the 100 words that surround the link, but also, understanding the real value of the content itself. And I think that AI is going to be doing a really good job of doing that. There are tools out there that can assess for things like sentiment and semantics and intent behind a piece. I think that whatever you write, even as a vehicle for a link, has to start having more value. So focusing in on really good quality content with the links weaved into, I think, is really critical. The second thing is digital PR. So we've been running Reachology for a couple of years now. Obviously, there have been some other big players that have come in that have productized digital PR. There's one or two competitors that have started to do it. So we've had to rotate slightly in terms of the way in which we offer campaigns and how we deliver it. But for the most part, our positioning hasn't changed. So just getting coverage for coverage's sake, I don't think is going to have the value long term that everybody hopes it will. Now, newsstand gets dealt with in a slightly different way with Google based on freshness. However, history tells us that when SEOs find a technique that works and then everyone jumps on the bandwagon and becomes widespread, they quickly have to release quite an aggressive update to deal with it. It's happened with many updates before. Panda spam updates that come every 3 months. It seems like, they're all trying to stop people gaming the system. So just getting coverage for digital PR, although it might feel good to be in the independent or the FT or something like that, if the coverage is not closely aligned with your central entity, what I mean by that is like the core thing that your business does, the ICP, ideal client profile, who specifically you're talking to, what's your area of expertise. If the coverage that you're acquiring doesn't align with that, I don't think you're going to be able to get away with it for long. So our campaigns tend to take a bit longer to deliver, which is frustrating for us as an agency because we've got to pay more wages out to get the same amount of work out the door that someone who might bang them out the door in 1 month might do. But the reality is longer term, that coverage, I believe, is going to be much more valuable. And when you look at the context of the coverage, tools like AI, so Claude, Gemini, which is Google's AI mode, ChatGPT, Search GPT, whichever you want to call it, they're going to be looking for, yes, coverage on press titles, but coverage that aligns more closely to exactly what the business is known to do or is specialist at doing. So for us, very topically relevant digital PR, wherever possible, I think is going to be really powerful. Stories that are also data-driven, so backed by statistics, likely to get conversions with journalists, but those will have kind of more meat on the bones for big media titles. And the last one, which, for years we've known as a thing, user engagement. So, the DOJ trial with Google obviously came to the forefront was the fact that Google uses Chrome data for its rankings. Now, any good SEO knows for years Google's been doing that. I mean, if they've got, billions of searches and all the data that surrounds it, why wouldn't they use it to, influence their algorithm? It's human interaction, and it's like the final piece of the puzzle. They've looked at an algorithm, the quality raters have checked pages, they've put together what they think should rank where, and then they're showing it in front of human beings. They don't actually know if what they've put together in their formula is right. So users looking at a website and either dwelling, hanging about on the website for a long period of time, scrolling down a scroll depth, clicking through to other pages, making an inquiry, Those are really, really useful signals. And then obviously exit search intent. Are they satisfied? Have they, gone onto a different search, closed the browser, gone back to Facebook, whatever? Or if they search for the same thing again, I know when I'm served up a page that I don't like, I'm going to go back to Google and search again and find another result. All of that data is going to feed into Google's algorithm. So user engagement has always been important. It's always been, a big weighted factor. However, there's a new layer which you need to bring into your forefront, which is social engagement. So yes, social channels, your LinkedIn's, your Instagrams, Facebook, wherever it might be, but the community-based ones are also really important. So a couple of months ago, we launched Reddit marketing. We've got hundreds of profiles that we can access. These are writers as part of our network in the States, writers that have, we've been working with for a long time, have profiles, they actively use Reddit. It makes sense for us to use that infrastructure that's already there. Reddit is a really, really important tool, really, really impactful. Reason being, about a year ago, Google and Reddit signed a really, really big deal so that Reddit allowed Google and all its crawlers and bots to basically come through and see every single thread, upvote, engagement, whatever it might be, crawl everything, right? And in return, they paid Reddit loads of money. But what also happened is Reddit got a massive spike of traffic. If you go back through Ahrefs, if you've got access, or SEMrush, you can see Reddit's dramatic growth. I think it's about a year ago. Traffic grew massively. And that coincided with the deal that they struck. Now, the reason why they paid so much money, I think it was $60 billion, something crazy like that. The reason why they paid so much, you imagine a situation where there's 2 years worth of just shite content written by AI just flooding the market, right? Every single day, there's trillions of pages being created, and Google's got more and more algorithm updates to release. Now, the reality is that Google's got crawl budget. That's almost like Google's use of energy, how much energy it's going to spend finding pages, going back to them, looking at the information, serving it up, deciding whether or not a website is useful or not, unique, whatever it might be. So if you suddenly, increase the size of the internet dramatically through AI, Google's got to spend more money sifting through all that white noise. So the other thing you've got to think about is if the internet is just full of AI content, eventually AI is just going to be rewriting AI, and you're going to get further and further and further away from human experience. So Reddit and Quora and a few others that we're looking at as well is basically a portal into the minds of billions of people that are talking in a Reddit or a subreddit in a thread about a subject specifically that relates to something. So it might be experience with the product, experience with the company, it might be advice about what to do, all those different things. There's active human beings talking to each other. So these AI tools, Google's, for example, they want to be able to tap into human brains and find out who are the real brands, what products are trustworthy, where their data or expertise should be seen, who they need to listen to, who the influencers are, blah, 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 blah. So there's a massive amount of value in being able to access fresh, insightful, on-the-minute opinions on brands and people and products and that sort of thing. So getting yourself visible in Reddit, in Quora, in these types of threads is not only really good for brand authority, it's also really impactful for AI search. Because if you go and use, Gemini is a great one that I use now. So if you go and use Gemini and you search for, Bupa's an expensive health insurer, what are the alternatives? The chances are it's going to pull in a comparison page that talks about all the different health insurance providers. It might bring in a YouTube video from somebody, but it's also likely to bring in publishers, so tier one press coverage, and it's probably going to bring in a whole load of Reddit threads where people are actively discussing the product. So Reddit needs to be part of your marketing scheme, especially if you're middle to large size business. You need to be all over it. Bit more complicated when you're a B2B space. It still can be done, but if you're B2C, business to consumer, you need to get all over it fast. Big focus for us at the moment is our fully managed authority campaigns. They start at about 3.5K, but the real proper ones, 5.5K a month for 3-month engagement. And what you'll get for that will be a decent sized digital PR campaign that's closely relevant. You'll get a really good amount of properly assessed links, which I would suggest you build those into your commercial and transactional pages, because that's where a lot of the action is, a lot of the keywords with commercial and transactional intent. And then you'll also get a pretty thorough Reddit campaign, so 4, 6, or 8 threads, depending on how big the campaign is that you sign up with us. And we'll find relevant threads or create them where people are actively talking about something related to your industry. Again, you can screen them, make sure you're happy. But those are really nice ways of weaving in. We'll take care of all the conversations. It takes 2-3 months to get it delivered because you've got to have multiple conversation points. You can't just go storming in, being really commercial and say, hey, go talk to this broker over here. It's got to be way more organic. Got to be neutral, and there might even be a negative comment thrown in there just to make sure that it looks a bit more impartial. But we will navigate that conversation to a commercial outcome where we can weave in a link to your site or a brand mention, for example. So yeah, PR for power, but still as relevant as possible. Decent, properly assessed links into the pages that carry your action, and then Reddit to back up your social engagement. Those campaigns are what you should be buying next year, year after. That's where link building and building authority is going. That's why we're putting all of our effort into getting those campaigns sorted and across the line. The other benefit is there are guaranteed KPIs as part of the campaign. So share of voice, brand search, conversion traffic, there's loads that we look at. We will agree to hit a majority of those, and each campaign and spec is tailored to you. If we don't hit them within 3 months, you get a 4th month free of charge. You get tons of extra value. And by that point, we really should be hitting all of those markers that we're talking about. So that's well worth discussing. If you're a white label agency, we've developed the program more. So you've got pre and post sale support. You've got access to head of content, head of SEO. That also carries into our authority campaigns for retail. You will get a senior account manager if you sign up for those mid or above size campaigns. You'll also get access to Danny, who's the head of SEO, and Cody, who's head of technical. So both of those guys will also be tuning up your content, tuning up your technical SEO, looking at internal linking, your schema, your markups, everything like that, page load speed, all of the housekeeping, as well as making sure that your content is fit for purpose. It's got enough meat on the bones for Google's historical index. It's got short and sweet answers for AI to be surfaced in those queries. And it's also going to convert nice and sexy for users for the click through the funnel and make an inquiry. So that, again, needs proper guidance and expertise. It's inclusive in those campaigns. You'll get deliverables for every single service. You'll get a roadmap for each of the services that we deliver, and you get plenty of support and technical advice up front. Anyway, that's your update. That's what we're selling. If you're interested in having a conversation, I would love to do a AI visibility audit or an authority gap analysis for you. It's free of charge. We can either do a initial scan of your technical and your content structure and give you some pointers there. But either way, happy to give you some free assessment, proving what we're talking about, and then we can get into the commercial aspects of the campaign, make sure we can justify the investment. There's a business goal attached to it. So yeah, get in contact, george@uklinkology.co.uk, or you can message me on LinkedIn. Thanks very much for your time, and bye for now.